Hello, welcome to this course, Build a Mood Tracker app hands-on with React and Flask. Here in this chapter, I will cover essential knowledge in GitHub, Gitpod, and Bash scripting, as well as the fundamentals of JavaScript. Our approach is all about learning by doing. You will be building a mood tracker app from scratch, which means you will get the hands-on experience with real-world coding tasks. This method will help you grasp the concepts better and faster. The goal is to give you a strong enough foundation so you can use generative AI to assist you rather than rely on it entirely. Think of it as learning the basics so you can confidently build and create on your own. If you encounter syntax or concepts that seem unfamiliar, don't hesitate to reach out to the Bytes and Balance community. Remember, you don't need to master everything right away. The intention here isn't to go through the basics with a hello world approach, but to provide fast and intense exposure to help you get up to speed quickly. Gradually, you will build on this knowledge and get more comfortable with the tools and techniques. So getting started with GitHub. GitHub is a platform where you can store and manage your code. It helps you keep track of changes and work together with others in coding projects. For more details, please check out this guide and following the instructions. There's information about getting GitHub and how to create your own account. Remember, you need your account throughout this course, and one Hello World example, and how to set up your profile, and lots of other information that you need to get familiar with. And our repository is actually, I've got a link here. Our repository is actually here. That's our GitHub repository. So just to get a feel of what GitHub looks like, this is our repository, Daily STEM Mood Tracker app. And as you can see, we've got the README here. README is usually like a document that's got a lot of information, overall information about the project. I have explained the structure of the project, back end, front end, two different branches. We've got the div and the main one, and we go through this later. And then how to contribute, how to get it started, setting yourself up on the front end and on the back end. So you've got all this information here. And as you can see, we've got the back end, front end folders here. So that's the structure of our repository on GitHub, and everyone who's got access to this course has access to this repository. So the next important piece is actually Gitpod. And Gitpod is a tool that helps you create an online development environment quickly. The goal here is to set up your development environment quickly without worrying about different operating systems like Mac, Windows, or Linux. Here's how to get going. First of all, head over to this Gitpod link and sign up using the GitHub account that you just created. And the second step, after going to this link and setting up your account, is to install the extension on your browser. It could be an extension on Firefox or Chrome. It doesn't matter. But this part is optional, but it adds this launch button right to your repository. So it's quite handy. And the last step, or the main step, is to launch a workspace. To start coding, you can either click the Gitpod button on any repository, or just simply add this gitpod.io/tag before a repository URL. For example, I'll put this URL here. So if I open this with the gitpod.io/tag, then you can see that it guides me to this page. Then I can create a new workspace. Continue. It might take a few moments to create a workspace for me. And then we'll end up on this page here. Slowly coming up. Just be a bit patient here. Cool. So you can see that actually we have the same front end and back end. This is exactly the same repository that I showed you that we had on GitHub. And we have this terminal here that on the terminal you can even start writing some comments like ls list all the folders and files here, or pwd, where am I? I'm here in this workspace early STEM Mood Tracker repository. So this is your development environment. So you've got the left hand side, which shows the structure of your repository, and you've got the terminal here. And you can start even running your code here. We'll get to this part very soon. All right, next step, we want to see what the basic workflow looks like when we make some changes on our development environment. For example, we change a file, or we add something, or we remove something. How can we just push those changes to our GitHub repository? Because remember, you've got one single source of truth, which is your GitHub repository. Everyone contributes contributes to that repository. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to head over to the Gitpod environment that we have open here. And then I'm going to make a change on one of the files. For example, src app.js. Don't worry about what this file is. All we care is we are making a change here, and I'm just writing a comment here. The moment that I stop writing here, this source control, this button here shows this notification here, because this is responsible to track the changes, and it finds the changes, and then it adds this one here. Okay, when you go there, you can see the change appeared here, and then you can see before and after. I'm ready to stage this. I'm finished with my change. I'm going to press this plus button here, and then I'm going to leave a message. I added a comment before calendar page wrapper for teaching purposes, and then tick. So it's all staged, and we've got a comment message. And then there's like 3 dots here. You push it, and you press this button, and it goes up to your repository. We'll see it in a second. So we go here. This is our repository. We just pushed it, so we've got 7 comments here. I added a comment before calendar page wrapper for teaching purposes. I'll go there, and then you can see the same change as here, as pushed up to here. And then you can see the before and after. So this is great. We can start developing in this environment. Then we can use the source control and then push those changes to our GitHub repository, which is shared between everyone else. There's another alternative. Instead of using that source control button on Gitpod or VS Code, Visual Code Editor on Gitpod, we can do we can enter these commands. Git add dot, it adds all the files that they have changes. Git comment -m is exactly where you did the message. We wrote the message. I'm adding a comment before calendar page wrapper for teaching purposes. And git push is exactly that 3 dots and push. Where do you add those? You go here, you do it here. Git add dot. I'm not going to enter this. I'm going to Control C and escape from here. And then git comment dash your message, whatever your message is, not going to enter. I'm going to Control C, and then I didn't git push. Not going to enter, Control C. So this is the alternative of doing this, the same workflow. And also you can run your apps here. I'm not going to go through this. At this stage, you just only need to know that you can use this environment to make your changes. Then you can use the source control to track the changes and push them to your GitHub repository. All right, this time, actually, I want to open the project using Desktop VS Code. Now, to start opening your GitHub repository in Gitpod, just add that gitpod.io/tag. I've got the link here. We'll open it to see what happens. So when you do this, then here there's this option that you can use VS Code Desktop. You choose that and continue. I'm not going to continue because it takes a few moments to prepare. But whenever I ask you, it's straightforward. You just have to say yes and confirm. When you confirm, then your window, your VS Code window will appear, which looks like something like this. We're going to go through like different features on VS Code. So on your VS Code, you have the file explorer here that you can see the project, the same structure that you have seen before. And then you've got your source control here. And you know that source control is actually where you can manage all your Git operations directly from the sidebar. You can commit changes, push to your repository, and more. And then you've got your editor here. So if you open a file, for example, that app.js that we opened before, this is your editor. You do all your coding here. For example, this is a comment. I can just say dot or something. So you can change your code. You can edit your code here. This is where all your coding happens. And the other powerful tool is your terminal. For your terminal, you have to do a shortcut Control backtick here. Then you've got your terminal. And you can do like basic bash scripting or some commands here to find like ls, find all the folders and all the files. You can use this terminal like within your VS Code. So the shortcut, as I said, is Control backtick. And the other thing that I want to draw your attention to is like we've got this SSH. What is actually SSH? SSH is actually secure key. So what happens is a secure share. What happens is secure share is like a secure key that lets you remotely access and control another computer over the internet. In Visual Studio Code, you can use SSH to connect to a remote server and work on it as if it were your own computer, allowing you to edit files, run code, and manage a system directly from your VS Code window. It's quite convenient because you can work on powerful remote machines while you are still on your local setup. And why do we have SSH here? It's because we are actually using one of the computers on the Gitpod side. We're not doing anything on our local machine. And it all happened behind the scene. We didn't see what happened, but Gitpod did it while we're confirming the steps when we opened the project using the desktop version of VS Code. And then the other thing that I want to show you is actually some of the basic features of VS Code. If we go to the next slide, basic features, we've got extensions, we've got the search, command palette, and debugging. These are very basic, and you always have to use them like on a daily basis. So make sure that you get yourself familiarized with these features. So let's go back to our desktop and see what extensions are. Extensions, the shortcut is Ctrl-Shift-X, or you go here and you press this. Then you've got all the extensions. For example, Copilot. Copilot, go to Copilot, and then it says GitHub Copilot is an AI pair programming tool that helps you write code faster and smarter. So if you want to use GitHub Copilot to help you with your programming, you can install it here with only a click. So it's very easy. Then you have your search to find specific text or code snippets within your project. It's just a matter of doing Ctrl-Shift-F. So I'll show you this. I do Ctrl-Shift-F, then the search area appears here, then I'm writing this. I'm writing to see if the comment that we added last time is here. Yes, it is. So I can find that for us. And what is next? The other one is command palette. There's a lot of commands that you can run here. So in order to do this, there's again a shortcut. The shortcut is Ctrl-Shift-P. Then this thing happens. For example, I'm just going to choose this text here. And then Ctrl-Shift-P. Then I'm saying transform to lowercase. When you do this, you can see it transformed I, capital I, to lowercase I. Or Ctrl-Shift-P, transform to uppercase. I'm writing a comment for teaching purposes. This is all capital here. This is quite handy too. And then you can use it in the debugging mode too. You can run and debug, explore all of that. And I have this link here that takes you to the documentation of VS Code. Make sure that you go through it. You don't need to know everything, but gradually you are going to learn a lot of features on VS Code that will come in handy with your coding experience. All right. So we launched our workspace and open the terminal. Now let's cover some basic bash commands that will help you navigate and manage files in your terminal. So if we go to the next slide, and if you know these commands, then skip this slide. Otherwise, let's go to our workspace, to our terminal here, and try it with the first one on the list. So what I'll do is I use ls to list the folders and files. And as you can see, you see assets back in front end read.me, but you don't see but in your file explorer, you see .github and .gitignore. You don't see them here. One way of doing this is do ls --help and then go and see what options you have. So here you have -a or --m, or do not ignore entries starting with dot, which are our hidden files. Okay, -a. So it shows you .ignore and .github. So that's what you can do. So what I'm going to do here, I'm not going to go through all the commands. I'm not going to type them. I'm just going to explain them really quickly. So cd. This command allows you to change directories. For example, cd my folder moves you into the my folder directory. pwd stands for print working directly. It shows you the full path of your current directory. Make directory or mkdir uses this to create a new directory. For instance, mkdir new project will create a directory named new project. rm, this command removes files or directories. Be careful with it, as it permanently deletes items. For all of these commands, you can always do rm --help and see what options you have, what arguments you can use. And CP, this allows you to copy files or directories from one location to another. And MV, use this command to move or rename files and directories. And echo, thus displays a line of text or variables. It's handy for printing out information in the terminal. Now I'm going to show you how to write your first bash script. First, you'll need to create a new file in your terminal. This file will contain your script. Now you do this with touch bytes and balance.sh. And then next, open this new file in the getPart editor, add some simple code to make the script print a greeting, and then go back to the terminal and make your script executable with chmod +X. So chmod changes the mode to something that is executable, and this step allows you to run the script as a program. And then you use // followed by your script's name to execute this. The // tells the terminal to look for the script in the current directory. I'm talking about the next slide now. And then, yeah, this will display the message you've set up in your script. Let's see this in practice. Now some basic variables in Bash. You can store values in variables for later use. For instance, you can set a variable called name and then use it in commands. This allows you to create a dynamic script that can easily adapt to different values. Conditional statements. These let you perform actions based on certain conditions. For example, you can check if a file exists and print a message accordingly. This is useful for making decisions in your scripts. Or loops. Loops let you repeat commands multiple times. For example, you can use a loop to print a welcome message several times. This helps you automate repetitive tasks and manage large amounts of data more effectively. Right, and I also put together 3 different links. You can go through them yourself, which are comprehensive guide and detailed reference for Bash scripting. And the last one, Learn Shell, is an interactive online tutorial for learning Shell scripting. Check them out if you're new to this and you want to get better in Bash scripting. To work effectively with React, it's important to know JavaScript since React is built on it. JavaScript skills will help you write custom logic, handle events, and manage data in your React apps, making the development process easier and more intuitive. Here's something to get you started with. Variables. In JavaScript, you use let and const to declare variables. Let. This is for variables that can be reassigned. It is block scoped, which means it's only available within the block it's defined in. And constant, this is used for values that shouldn't change after being set. It is also blocked scoped, ensuring that the value remains constant throughout its block. For example, let name bytes and balance is used for variables that can be updated later. Constant greeting hello is for values that should remain the same once assigned. Second thing is data types. JavaScript handles various types of data. For example, strings for text like let str equals hello bytes and balance. Numbers for numerical values such as let num42. Booleans for true or false values like let is active as true. And arrays for lists such as let r is a list of 1, 2, 3. Objects for key value pairs like let object or obj to be quotation, not quotation, but bracelet name, bytes and balance, and h2. Going to the next slide, we have the functions. Functions are used to perform tasks or calculations and can be defined in 2 ways. We've got function declaration. These are the traditional way to define a function. For example, function greet name in a bracelet, return hello name creates a function named greet that takes a name as an argument, returns a greeting. Or arrow functions, a more modern and concise way to define functions. For instance, const greet arrow is name that gives return hello with that name. achieves the same result as the previous example, but uses this arrow function syntax. Then we have the conditionals. Conditional statements let you execute different code based on certain conditions. You can use if, else if, and else to handle different scenarios. For example, if num greater than 0, console.log, send this log to the console, number is positive, checks if num is greater than 0 and prints a message if true. Else if num less than 0, console.log sends this log to the console, handles the case when num is less than 0, and else covers a scenario where num is neither greater than nor less than 0. So let's go to the next slide. And then we have loops. Let you repeat code multiple times. There are a few common types. For loop, this loop runs a set number of times. For instance, for let I 0 less than 5, and then send us a message to the console. We'll print iteration 0 through iteration 4. While loop, this loop continues as long as a condition is true. For example, while count is less than 5, send this message to the console. And then every time, increase the number of count. We'll keep printing the value of count until it reaches 5. Arrays and objects. These are key structures for managing data. Arrays. These are lists of items. For example, let our bytes and balance, the 3 of them, creates an array of words. You can access elements like one, which would give ampersand. And objects. These are collections of key value pairs. For example, let object, a bracelet name, bytes and balance, and age, defines an object with the name and age. You can access properties with the object.name, which retains bytes and balance. So it's just a better way. Instead of using arrays, you can use objects here. All right, in this project, we have 2 branches. The first one, main, holds the final version of the project with all features implemented and fully integrated. If you want to see the look of it, just go to this link and you can see that you've got this calendar. You can choose a date. When you go to the date, you can enter your emojis here, how you feel in terms of happiness, calmness, motivation level. And you can also add some information like your journal, activities, sleep, diet, physical symptoms, triggers, energy level, and then you can save them. Next time, if you come back to this date, 15th of August, then you get the saved data. And once the insight is, when you have the data for the whole month, you can get some diagrams showing your sleep pattern, for example, or your diet in the months. And the other thing is the second branch, dev. This branch contains the initial setup with minimal components. It's the branch you start from to develop your individual features. So I'm going to go and show you the dev branch, what it looks like. So I'm going to switch to dev and go back to this link. And here we go. You can see it's very basic, and that's where you start. So it doesn't have the slide. If you go to this, it just has a placeholder for mood tracking form. Or if you go to Monster Insight, it's got the placeholders, but you have to enter them yourself. The backend into dev branch includes essential components. App.py provides a basic API with a single endpoint in the dev branch for retrieving mood entries by date. So if you go to your VS Code and go to your backend, you can find your app.py, and there's only one endpoint here. But in the main branch, you've got multiple. The second component is database.py, which sets up the SQLite database and creates the necessary table. This is where we create the table to save or store the information that we get from the user. And the last one, moodgenerator.py, this is actually to make some sample data. So it generates sample data for the database, and it's contrived. It is not really required for your contributions, just to fill out a table with some contrived data. To contribute, you can start by cloning the repository to your local machine. If you're already in your Gitpod workspace, you don't need to do this because your repository is already there. But if you are not and you want to use your laptop, you can use this command, git clone your URL, and you can use this in your terminal in your VS Code. Then you go ahead and create a new branch and always name it with your name and a description, always be descriptive. For example, if your name is Lawrence, and if the component that you're working is mood chart component, then put that in the mood chart component. Make your changes, and then we go through the workflow, the GitHub workflow. I'm going to show you here, going back to VS Code, I'll show you how you can create a new branch here. You click on this, then create new branch, Lawrence mode chart component. When you enter, the branch appears here. You go to one of the files, just add one comment. For example, save this. After saving this, then you can either use the source control to push your changes, or you can use the terminal. This time I'm going to use the terminal. Get at dot get commit dash m on the comment. Sorry, n is missing. Then you can get push this, and then you pushed it. When you push this, then you can go back to your repository here. This is your repository. So your branch is here, and it says compare and pull requests. Pull requests is when you want to ask people to review your code. So I've got a template here. Always make sure that you've got a title, you've got a description, you explain what changes you've made, have some screenshots if you need to, additional notes, and then make sure that you take the checklist, the parts that are important, and choose one or two people as reviewers and create your pull request. After you created your pull request, the reviewers will review your code and provide some comments, and they either approve or ask for some changes or decline your changes. This is the workflow when you collaborate with others. Right, to set up the front end, first of all, you need to install Node and Node Package Manager, which is very important. Go to this link that I put here and follow the instruction. And if you have any problem, please reach out to your community and ask for help. After doing this, what you can do, you can go to your front end directory, and with running npm install, you can install the required dependency. You already have your dependencies in your package.json, in your folder, in your front end. So with npm install, Node Package Manager install, you can install all your requirements. And then run the development server and start the development server with npm start. When you do npm start, it brings up your front end application. And then the second part is you're setting up the back end. Again, you have to install your Python and pip because we're using Flask. And there's a requirements.txt that you've got all these requirements, Python requirements that you're using pip to install those. So first of all, you're going to your backend directory and install the required Python packages with pip install -r requirements.txt and initialize the database by running python database.py. And then you can start the Flask application with python app.py when you are in your backend. Remember, you have to install Python and pip beforehand. To install those, please go to this link for Python and the other link for pip to install your package manager. And again, if there is any problem, reach out to your community. Make sure that you can set yourself up.